Hello, I'm Alexander Heibel, alias Abaxial, and today I'm conducting a video interview for GoldPretend.com. Joining me is Eric Van Helvert, who goes by the nickname Tabzz, and has twice gone to the League of Legends World Championship as an ADC. How are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Okay, let's start with some questions about today's metagame. How strong does the ADC role feel right now, and do you think it's in a good place? Just generally speaking, like how strong you are.
I feel like some of the characters are in a good place, and Season 5 feels pretty good to me when it comes to ADC, at least in solo queue. When it comes to team play, I can't really say I haven't done much team play yet in Season 5, but yeah, I think the AD carry role, it's in a better place than it was in Season 4 Spring. Because Season 4 Spring, Riot messed up the supports pretty badly and made them really overpowered, especially in the laning phase, so then AD carries were not that strong. It's better than that. I don't know if it's as strong as pre-nerf BT, I don't think so, but it's in a pretty good spot right now, I think.
Okay. I think most people would consider the top supports right now to be Janna, Thresh, Annie, and then top laning ADC, Graves. There's obviously you can play other things, but how do we feel about current bot lane balance? Is it fun to play 2v2 right now?
Yeah, I would say it's fun. It's not very frustrating. Like there was past metas where it's actually frustrating to play bot lane, but now it feels like it's balanced pretty well, and some of the champs are really fun to play. Like the ones in the meta right now, I really like Graves and Kalista, both of them. I think they're really fun to play and have really interesting lane phases. So yeah, I do enjoy laning right now.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on Kalista? We haven't seen too much of her yet, but some people think she's gonna be a problematic champion like Cassidy, and really difficult to balance. Is
Yeah.
she countered by targeted crowd control? Are there enough ways in the game to handle her right now?
No, no, no. I don't think so because the way QSS is nowadays, it's really easy to incorporate into most AD carries builds. So especially Kalista, a character doesn't even rely on crit chance. Most of the time you see people build like Renance and Bloodthirster. And the Quicksilver right afterwards will get you rid of like 20 minutes. So even like targeted CC it's not gonna really shut a Kalista down completely.
Okay. So do you think she's a little too strong? Is her passive like hard to work with in terms of balance? Or you're not sure?
It's not just hard to work with from balance point, but also as a player, because if you're used to playing a lot of AD carry, you know how to cancel your movements and like to do the kind of precise little movements, the micro. And with Kalista, it's just completely different because you can't cancel your auto. It has like a wind up and then you jump, right? And you jump a fixed distance pretty much. So it takes some getting used to, but I think once you get used to it, it's actually very useful. It's different from the regular movement pattern. But it's good, yeah, and I think it allows for a lot more mobility, especially kiting.
Okay. So all right. So we're not sure if she's a problem champion. Okay.
I'm pretty sure she's gonna be a problem, to be
Okay. Okay.
honest.
That was what I was
But I
looking
mean,
for. Okay.
I think she's gonna be a problem, but that is not a problem in itself. That's how I
Oh,
see
okay.
it,
Okay.
because I think that when I think this, I mean, I'm biased obviously because I'm an AD carry player,
Mhm.
and I'm a kind of guy that likes my role to be powerful. I like these kind of champions. I don't mind them being strong. So I'd rather have them be strong, and then like Riot, please buff Ezreal up to this level. Like that would be really cool. And then I'm happy.
Alright. So, okay. Enough ADCs. Your
Yeah.
favorite champion, Fizz, just got his numbers moved around. I actually do
I,
stats for Lol King's weekly videos. So I've seen the change in win rate firsthand. He went down about 9% or so. But the week after, players just showed us a Trinity Force Blade kind of bruiser build in the top lane. What do you think of that? What do you think of, more traditional Lich Bane, Zanya's Fizz? And just like his overall strength. Is that
yeah.
win
Okay.
rate misleading? Or...
Well, first I'll start with the bruiser build. I think it's always been possible. It's just that attack speed has been made a bit more favorable with the W change. And the ultimate also boosts physical damage from Serenity Force and Blade, so you actually get a bit more damage. So in that terms, yeah, the build has been buffed a little bit. But it still has the same weaknesses. It's very weak in team fights and easily peeled because it's so reliant on auto attacks compared to the original Fizz, which is burst and mobility based. So I think it's okay for a top lane, like, high pressure 1v1 champion, kind of like old Nidalee, where you have really big pressure.
Okay.
And I will talk about AP now. So I think as an AP character, he got nerfed quite a lot. Like, not gonna lie, like his AP range pretty much just got blown up on his Q and his W, and the base damage on the Q got lowered a ton as well. So, but that's kind of removed all the Fizz players who were like relying on the Q to kill people only.
Okay.
And it's made it more into like a tricky game where you have to get damage off with your E and your ultimate, more than like relying on your Q as your bread and butter damage ability. So in that sense, I think he did get nerfed quite a lot because it was a very, very strong spell, and his playstyle was incredibly strong and probably too strong, too hard to balance. So I feel like if Riot takes his gameplay more into a tricky E-based damage kind of playstyle where Q is more used for mobility than for damage, that like I saw this on my stream before, but kind of how Yasuo E works on resets and stuff and targets, like
Okay. Yeah.
kind of using that concept on Fizz's Q to make it more mobility utility spell, so he can get his damage off with like E and ultimate and be a bit more tricky, would fit him really well. And I do agree with Riot that, that Q was just dumb because late game, a Fizz could just you run flash and just flash Q a carry and they would die, right? Even I took full advantage of that for many years, but yeah, I think it was something that was very problematic. So I'm happy that they are taking some steps to at least make Fizz a bit more of a skilled character, so not everyone's gonna call me a dirty Fizz picker anymore.
Okay.
And,
Do you think
about-
in his
Oh.
current sorry, go on.
No, I said I was gonna say like his overall power level, I would say it's weaker because his original assassin playstyle is kind of in the gutter now with the Q, and people I don't think he's like absolutely terrible trash can tier, but like he will take Fizz players that relied a lot of getting used to get used like the new playstyle.
Okay. Do you think we'll see any AP mid Fizz like in the near future? Or nah.
No. I've also started like building differently, right? So I used to go for Lich Bane Rush every game, no matter what, because I leveled Q second. Getting Lich Bane first would allow me to hit kind of the same power spike with my level 5 Q and my Lich Bane completion at the same time, which resulted in a very strong mid game. But now I like going W second and E first, but always E first, obviously. Like no Fizz should ever not max E first. Just gonna throw that out there. Like, because I've seen people max W or Q first, and no, don't do this. I mean, maybe if you're top lane and you need the 1v1 damage against a melee character, W, it's okay, but still, like, E is just so vital to his gameplay. And yeah, I've been starting to build Abyssal Scepter first, especially with the double AP meta coming back. Let's say the Sunra top and stuff. The magic resist and the magic pen really helps in getting the ultimate and E damage off. And yeah, Lich Bane is not that important anymore early in his build, I think.
Okay. Cool. Alright. So, last question about the current meta. Feels like people have been complaining about a small set of viable junglers for a long time. Right now, people say Jarvan, Rek'Sai, crowd out everything.
Yeah.
There's a couple Rengar players. But, like, people are complaining about Lee Sin feeling really weak compared to them. I know you don't jungle, but do you think pro junglers need to think outside the box, or is it true like there's just like a few A-list junglers and unorthodox picks?
Yeah, well,
Fiddlesticks, sort of like more like a single game gimmick than anything else.
Yeah. Well, I think what kind of forces the jungle picks into being so small, is because the jungle kind of has to be good at everything. You have to be able to clear fast, that's a prerequisite, and you have to be good at ganking and early game control. Obviously, some of them have different tasks, but it makes it very hard to kind of use unorthodox picks because they have to conform to those requirements to be a good jungler, right? In the pro scene especially, you just get a very limited pool of champions because they need to fit these requirements what the team needs. And yeah, usually that just ends up in just being a couple champions like Lee Sin, everyone knows from the past. Maybe not as much now, but yeah, some junglers that fit these qualifications like Rek'Sai, Jarvan, Vi, all these kind of characters keep coming back. They have good ganking, good clearing, and yeah, I don't think unless the jungle changes a lot or the requirements for being a jungler in a pro team change a lot, then the popular picks won't change either.
Okay. All right. Okay. Time for hardball. Pro scene. Okay.
Pros
We got
here,
some.
but I'm just
We got
an
some loaded
amateur, man.
questions. So you know, some long setups. So just try to bear with me.
Okay.
Let's start with your former teammate Nukeduck, who made it back to the European LCS after a exile. We're now 6 games in the season. It's too soon to make definitive statements, but first 2 weeks Nukeduck didn't look that great. Last week he played Kassadin twice. He had an okay performance. I think he solo killed Pepinero.
Yeah.
But I don't know how highly people think of him. But you know, I guess jury's out on how good Nukeduck is right now. But my question is he sort of more comfortable on Assassins? Is he going to just always be a little bit better on Assassins compared to some team fight mages like Xerath? Even his LeBlanc play earlier wasn't, you know, too special. Or no, Nukeduck can play whatever he wants. It's just a matter of you know, what he wants to do, and does it fit like the team? Can the team play with it?
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what I think about Nukeduck. He's this kind of player that it's not like he can only play Assassins. I don't think that's how it is. I think the way it is that he just picks a couple champions that he likes himself, the playstyle of it, and he gets really good on those champions that he likes. So it was Zed and Kassadin in the past, like even he became very good at Jace over the offseason, I think. And yeah, and he gets these kind of champions that just fit him, and he just gets really good on those. And yeah, and if he doesn't like the champion, at least that's what I've noticed from playing with him. If he doesn't like it, he doesn't really get into it, you know, and he can't really be the best on those characters. But I think he can definitely be the best player in Europe on those champions that he really likes and that he's really interested in.
Okay. All right. Question about Alliance. We're not going to go anywhere too scary, but Shook has been described by many as sort of a brilliant but inconsistent player. I want to go more detailed. I've been told that Shook plays really heavily on instinct. That you know, maybe he looks at the map, he just sort of sees the spy, he's like, bam. But he doesn't really try to slow down, think about it like more consciously. You know, it's more reflexive. I think that kind of fits what I've heard about Shook not really talking very much. So what does Shook need from in order to improve that decision making? I mean, not that it's bad. I mean, he guesses right a lot of the time, but he also guesses wrong, as we know. And this applies to fights too. If his teammates talk to him, does that like keep him in the moment, like keep him like thinking, as opposed to just like play, go, go? Or does Shook need to, if he's gonna change it all, it has to come from within? You know, is El Shook like this untamable beast? You know.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he plays towards instinct a lot of the time. He especially falls back to his kind of habits, instinctual play, if things don't really work out the way he wants in the game. So I think in Season 4, he was really heavy into ganking the top lane and ganking the mid lane especially. He was never very great at ganking the bot lane as far as my experience with him goes. And so yeah, if things didn't really work out, he would just like camp top until he got back into the game, got some kills, you know, tried to get back through that way. He wouldn't really try to figure out, okay, this timing I can do dragon if bot pushes in, you know, I was like, I'm just gonna go top and get a kill there and then get back into the game because I'm stronger. And yeah, that's kind of to do with his instincts, I guess. And he was not the player that would talk a lot during the game to his teammates and set things up very far in advance. It was kind of like, it had like a 30-second, 1-minute window, you know, like I'm gonna do this the next minute, instead of like, okay, I'm gonna do this in 5 minutes, you know. It was always kind of short term with him, I felt. And yeah, that was his own play style, and sometimes, like, often it worked if you just let him do his own thing. He was the best at that, like, if you tell him to gank, he would take it very literally, you know, and just be there and try to gank, even though it might not be possible, or he even thinks himself it's not possible, he's just gonna try and do it anyway, you know? And sometimes we thought it was better just to let him play his own game and not really boss him around too much because it worked out better for us. Because if he did, and he did get those early ganks, he got the early kills, you know, then he would really snowball the game very easily and do very good.
Okay, so you're saying that it actually didn't work that well if you tried to talk to him too much. If you because he wasn't really good at like taking it with a grain of salt, like adapting it to whatever you said to his current plan. Instead he just sort of drops everything. I will act on it immediately, kind of, right?
Yeah, it was a bit like that, yeah.
Okay, okay. Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Related question. A player's willingness to speak up and communicate with their teammates is obviously an important attribute. We also know that some players are just more outspoken than others. I don't think that really means that they're extrovert as opposed to introverted or whatever psychological classification. Just they're comfortable talking. My question is, how realistic is it to expect a player to change and become more outspoken if they don't talk enough currently? When people do it successfully, is it the exception? Is it the norm? Or kind of flip a coin, 50-50?
I don't think you can really change that overnight. So like, you start talking tomorrow, you know, like you do everything. No, it's not gonna work. It takes a lot of time to build up those kind of habits, and I think like confident players, like people that are generally confident, like human beings, you know, they'll be more likely to just shout out commands and like tell things to their team, be more fit as a shot caller. Some people, they're not that confident in their play or themselves, you know, they're not gonna be that easily, like they're not gonna shot call their team that easily because they just don't really feel comfortable doing so. And I think you can change it. I think everyone can like shot call if they want to and they feel comfortable with their team. I think if you don't feel comfortable giving orders to your team, you can't really be a shot caller. So it also depends on like kind of the relationship you have with your teammates. And yeah, but in general, I do think people can change and start developing habits, but it does take practice to do.
Okay. Okay. We'll move on to the performance of some ADC players. I think people have asked you enough questions about Reckles. We'll talk instead about everyone's favorite boy, Forgiven, right now. I'll ask you plain. Could Forgiven be the best ADC in the world, or failing that top 3? Does he have a real shot at outperforming Imp, Uzi, Deft, if they ever play? And if so, is he the only Westerner right now? Or could others contend if given the right team, right strategy? Players such as Sneaky, Doublelift, Reckles.
Well, I think I think Forgiven is easily the best AD carry in the West, at least. I can't really say the whole world stage, you know, like he's never played there. And I mean, it does feel to me like that when I played in the Season 4 Spring, the Copenhagen Wolves team at the time with Amazing and Forgiven, they weren't a very good team. Like, they were quite a weak team,
Right.
the bottom of the standings most of the time. But you were still scared shitless of Forgiven, you know, because like you know that guy would farm 10 CS a minute, and you know if you fucked up a team fight, that they would be able to win the game. And that's everyone when they played against Wolves, they played specifically against Forgiven, you know, it's like ban out his champions, like gank bot a lot, make sure he doesn't get ahead and can play his own game. And that just kind of tells you the kind of player he was. I was even though I was on Wolves, like a team that didn't really accomplish anything, I was still inspired by his play at the time. And going from spring to summer in the off season, I trained a lot in solo queue because I was like, wow, this guy can do things with AD carry that I didn't even think I could do, right? So I just trained a lot and tried to kind of get on his level in a sense, especially mechanically wise, because the thing I admired most about him was his very precise mechanics, especially his auto attack canceling. It was like so smooth, you would always think it's like his second nature to do it, right? So like his kiting was just like really perfect. And that was really impressive to me, so I tried to become as good as him over the and that kind of made me into the player that I was in summer of Season 4. And yeah, I think that was my best performance in a split so far. So in that sense, it definitely worked. Kind of sad that I didn't get to play against him in summer though, because yeah, all the stuff that happened with him and Wolves. But yeah,
Okay.
um, he's always been this the player that I respect and fear most in that sense. That he just commands this respect of you. I think.
Okay. So, the other person I want your opinion on is Wildturtle. You directly competed against him and Team Solo Mid at the Season 3 World Championship, and then scrimmed him from practice during the Season 4 World Championship. I think the most popular opinion is that Wildturtle was a strong laner in Season 3, but kind of failed to improve during Season 4 and was surpassed. Monte Cristo has called his laning phase weak on multiple occasions, as have others. Do you share this opinion, or are people underselling Wildturtle? If his laning is weak, then what do you think of his team fighting?
Um, it's kind of hard to say, Walter. I don't have that much experience with him. I did scrim against him a lot in that time, and the experience I got from scrimming against him before the Season 4 Worlds is that in lane phase, I felt individually he was a bit inconsistent, but it was alright because he had Lustboy in the lane at the time, and Lustboy was a very, very strong laner. And I felt like Lustboy really did all the work in that lane most of the time and managed to easily win it for them. So in terms of being a weak laning phase, I can't really say that because at the time they beat us all the time because they were actually like really good together. And yeah, Walter in team fights, he seems a bit like trigger happy, you know? Like he goes in, he pulls that trigger sometimes sooner than he should. Like he has the right idea of going in and finishing things and being the aggressive AD, but sometimes he just pulls the trigger a little bit too early and ends up costing his team, or he does it like just a tiny bit wrong, you know, so he dies. But yeah, I think that's about it about him, yeah.
Okay. Um, this is a personal theory. I've never seen anyone say this before. Just from watching him stream, I think his laning problems stem a little from inaccuracy. That he kind of spam clicks while he's mousing towards a target instead of trying to get it in one go. Like he's like da 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 instead of just like da da da. And then I would follow that he therefore has a little trouble responding to like single auto attack trades where you're just like, you know, as soon as someone comes into your range, you respond immediately. And then when he's trying to be aggressive himself, he sort of telegraphs it, like, you know, he's giving you like a half-second warning and stuff like that. Again, instead of just like as soon as someone gets in your range, you click on him. Does that hold any water, or you don't know?
It's really, I think it really depends on the player themselves, you know, like I have my own style. I click a lot as well. Like I spam my left and right mouse buttons because I use a combination of attack, move, and right click for movement commands and attacks. And I think it is very important to be able to accurately click fast on something if it gets into your attack range. But maybe he can do that as well with his style of using the mouse, you know? Like I can't really read that from watching his stream. It might just be that he's just not fast enough to do it, you know? It might not be the style of his mouse clicks. So it's kind of hard to judge.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's just a personal theory. I'm not like that great a player myself. I'm a top lane main. I've gotten sort of high, but my ADC is terrible. Um, so here's a pretty out there question. A little less about players. You've talked at some length about anxiety and mental health. Okay, the struggles that other players such as Glebe have faced have been quite publicized. The question I'll ask in a moment is, does talking about mental health hurt your prospects? I know it does in physical sports. There are instances where NBA, NFL players have been ostracized, kicked off teams for talking about these disorders, and asking for understanding, or when they speak up on other issues. I think that esports players are fundamentally a good bunch, and you don't have this sort of over masculine posturing, kind of. But do you think they're comfortable with these things? Because it seems to me like when players are in a really cramped gaming house, they're going to be pretty defensive of what little privacy and freedom they have. And asking for accommodation for mental health could be sort of misconstrued as an attack on that privacy. The other possibility is that I'm giving players and teams a bad rap. You being jobless has nothing to do with any of that. Or maybe it's not a big deal in League, but it is in other esports that are known to be a little more toxic, like CS or something like that. Do you have thoughts? That's a loaded statement.
Okay, so first off, I think how the community responds is generally pretty positive. If you come out, you say have problems, ask for understanding, I think they generally respond positively. If you are like a positive person yourself, if you are well liked in the community, they will also respond positively to any problems you might have, including mental health ones. But if you make it public, you also make it public to organizations, you make it public to business people, and then you enter like a market with other people because that want your job basically. So if they could choose you, but then this other you that doesn't have this problem, they will pick this other you, and because you're competing with them. So it is a sign of weakness in that sense to openly talk about it. That's why it's a bit of a taboo, to do it. And I do think it does hurt your prospects a bit. Like especially if you have, let's say, permanent problems like Glebe. He admitted he has like bipolar disorder, I think. Like that can have a pretty big weight on like how people would think. How does he do in a team, right? How would he be with these other people, and how is he manageable as a player and a person? But I think a lot of mental health issues in esports aren't the permanent kind of problems. That is, like bipolar disease and stuff. I think it's more caused by the lifestyle. It's their temporary things, or like by the kind of toxic lifestyle that esport players lead. They're kind of cramped in gaming house. They play 10 hours a day. They don't see much sunlight. They don't exercise a lot in a Yellow Star. Like this kind of thing. I think that kind of leads to some of these problems. Like it can lead to anxiety and stress levels reaching pretty high levels if you do many long weeks and long nights just training and training, not really doing anything else. It does impact everyone. It impacts every esports player. And those problems, I think they're temporary. And I think organizations can deal all right with like this player saying that they're stressed because they know the work environment. They know how these players have to like work, So that's just I think a byproduct of the environment.
Okay. So that kind of leads into you saying, maybe you had some anxiety or stuff to deal with earlier, but you don't think that's really like a recurring condition? Like you don't think you have any problems right now?
No, I don't have any problems. Yeah, I did think my stress level at the time got a bit high, and maybe I shouldn't have publicized it as well, like it might have been a bad move PR-wise and for myself. But those kind of things, yeah, for me, it was definitely just a temporary thing, and I'm completely fine now, so.
Okay. I misstepped earlier. I didn't mean to say, like, CSGO players are toxic or anything like that. It's just, I've heard a lot of things about bad team dynamics there. But maybe it's just, more publicized, or maybe, CS just has more history if you go back, a decade or something like that. Yeah, I kind of missed up there. But anyways, you touched a little on public backlash towards comments players make. Recently, Reckles made a bit of a stir, expressing some disappointment with Elements. He's still on that team, so there's a few reasons those words were maybe a bad idea. But you yourself came under fire for a statement that I think people have now realized was pretty reasonable. You were no longer part of the team, of the team then Alliance, and you said both positive and negative things. On the other side of the spectrum, different situation, but we have Cyanide calling Nukeduck average on air, and people loved him for it. Again, these situations are not the same at all, but in general, are players' opinions maybe a little too suppressed? Would it be healthy for the scene if it was a little more okay for that for players to say a bit more, or
I think
is leaving it to sorry, is it leaving it to the commentators and fans maybe how it should be? It's fine as is.
I think like League of Legends esports is starting to go more and more towards like the regular sport thing, you know, where the players like they can't really express their opinions that openly about each other, you know, because it's really easy to get a really big backlash. Like back in season 2, I was flaming the crap out of everyone and stuff too, you know, but you know that's just how it went. And in the pro scene, it's never been that big of a deal, you know. You don't really you respect your opponents. Even when I was a bit toxic and so I respected my opponents in team play and competitive, and yeah, the more League grows more professional, gains bigger audience, the more the players will be kind of severed from the community in a sense of honesty, I think, where, you know, it just becomes better to just hide what you think and stuff because it could influence your career negatively. And yeah, then opinions do get suppressed more and more in favor of like becoming a more likable person for the audience.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Tabzz, would you like to talk to your fans for a minute? Tell them what you're up to?
Oh, to my fans. Well, yeah, right now I had a nice period where I sorted out some real life stuff and like just got rid of all the stress I built up and stuff, and I'm completely fine now. I got back into the League scene about like 2 weeks ago. Started playing a lot of solo queue and streaming a lot again on my Twitch TV. Having a really good time also doing with Crepo, and yeah, I am looking to return to the League scene in one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay. Any shout outs? Does your stream have any sponsors, or how can people
No,
follow
no,
or
it
contact
doesn't.
you?
Oh well, if you want to contact me, just like write me like a Twitch TV message or tweet me or something. You know, I'll probably see it. So
Okay. Well, that's that. Thank you for your time.
no problem.